Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Um, you may notice that I am not Chris Hansen. He is unable to be with us today, so I will be the acting chairman for this meeting. This is the time and place for the regularly scheduled Board of Oil, Gas, and Mining meeting held on Wednesday, April 27th, 2022, beginning at 9:00 a.m. at the offices. I'm counting on our attorneys and other board members to keep me on the straight and narrow here. So hold up your hand if something isn't going right. Let's move right into the briefing session.
Perfect. Okay.
Holly.
Thank you. My name is Holly Brown, and I'm the Public Information Officer for the Division of Oil, Gas, and Mining. And this morning we have our Environmental Excellence Award nomination presentation. So I would like to introduce Gerald Heston and Pete Shabastari are with Pilot Gold Strike Incorporated, and they have they're nominated in the minerals category for outstanding results following applications of innovative environmental technology and outstanding final reclamation or site restoration at their Gold Strike mine in the Bull Valley Mountains. And with that, I will turn the time over to those gentlemen for their presentation.
Thank you, and thank you all for the opportunity to come here and present our project. We're very proud of the work that we're doing out there and the work that we will be doing moving forward. So I want to recognize Gerald Heston. Gerald is an environmental and GIS manager. He's been in.
I'm sorry, we're having issues picking this up for those participating remotely. If you could please speak into the microphone.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Pete Shabastari. I'm the Vice President of Operations for Pilot Gold USA, and I would like to introduce Gerald Heston, our GIS and permitting manager. So he's been in this position since 2001. Gerald is a geologist and a GIS specialist. He holds a bachelor's degree in geology from University of Colorado and a master's degree in environmental policy from the University of Denver, and is also completing an advanced GIS professional program at University of Wisconsin. And he's going to talk about how we do reclamation on our Gold Strike exploration project. So I'll just turn it over to Gerald.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Pete. Thank you to the Doggin board for inviting us here today. Very honored to be nominated for this award. So I'd like to introduce Liberty Gold and Pilot Gold Strike to begin with. First of all, Liberty Gold is our corporate parent, and Pilot Gold Strike Inc. is our U.S. subsidiary that we operate in Utah. We are a Toronto Stock Exchange listed a gold and development exploration company. Our head office is in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and we have an exploration office in Elko, Nevada, and I'm actually based in Reno, Nevada. Liberty Gold and Pilot Gold are a spin-off company from Frontier Gold, which was purchased by Newmont in 2011. And our group has been together for several years, since at least 2005. Our business is finding and responsibly developing gold deposits throughout the Western U.S. And we have about 20 geologists and administrative staff in North America. Quickly, we have two large projects in the Western U.S. First is the Black Pine project in southern Idaho, which has 1.7 million ounces indicated gold. And then the Gold Strike project in southwestern Utah, which has 925,000 ounces of indicated gold reserves. A quick history of the Gold Strike mine. The gold was first reported in the late 1890s, and there was some early underground mining through the 1910s that was focused on the high-grade zones near the present Hamburg pit. There was a 3-stamp mill that was installed in 1910 It's a picture here that's still standing, and it's a nice piece of history out there. The district was mostly idle until the 1970s when heap leaching became widely used and the Carlin style mineralization was recognized at the deposit. The modern exploration era began in 1970, and when several companies started exploration, and they opened the Goldstrike mine, and USMX mined from a dozen small pits over a 6-kilometer long trend until 1995. Over its production history, it produced 209,000 ounces of gold and 198,000 ounces of silver. In 1994, mining ceased due to the stagnant gold prices and the lack of room on the heap leach pads. The pads were rinsed and the site facilities were removed, and reclamation was completed in 1995 and 1996, and it's now completely reclaimed. Now, on the image on the left is from 1994 at the peak of mining, and the image on the right is after reclamation, a modern photo. So you can see that it's very well reclaimed, and Doggam considers this a showcase of reclamation. Liberty Gold assumed the ownership of the Goldstrike project through the acquisition of Cadillac Mining Corporation in 2014. And since then, we've doubled the size of the project through staking, and we've also completed digitization of all historic data that went into our geologic model, completion of a plan of operations, NEPA surveys, geophysical surveys, detailed geologic mapping. Since 2014, we've drilled 828 drill holes at 384,000 feet, which is an investment in the district of over $20 million. And we've completed phase 1 and 2 metallurgical testing. And in 2018, we completed a resource model and preliminary economic assessment, or a PEA. And then you can see on the map, the project is about 35 miles northwest of St. George. A couple highlights from our PEA. Has a after-tax net present value of 129.5 million, planning to produce 95,000 ounces of gold a year for a total of 713,000 ounces over 7.5 years. At a grade of 0.48 grams per ton gold with 78% recovery, and the initial capital investment is approximately $113 million. And the image on the lower right is a conceptual layout of what the mine might look like, showing the pits, waste rock facilities, and the heap leach. Getting into our data compilation, one of the most useful resources that we found was Doggam's digitized permitting files for the historic Goldstrike mine. Tons of just really useful information there. And one of them is this map showing the final reclamation plans, which I was able to digitize and put into GIS. The Utah Geospatial Resource Center, which is the GIS portal, had really good resources for air photos, roads. Utah SITLA for land status, Division of Water Rights data, Utah Geological Survey for geological data, Washington County parcels and recorded documents for land status, BLM's Navigator, and MLRS for mining claims and rights of way and other permitting. We've digitized a lot of our historical files and digitized most of those. And all this GIS data supports our permitting efforts, our geologic and modeling efforts, and our engineering efforts. For permitting, most of the property is on BLM administered land with some private property in the center that we lease. That's shown in the yellow on the map, and a SITLA lease in the southern part of the property. We started with Cadillac's 2014 Notice of Intent permit, and then in 2016, we submitted a plan of operations to Doggam and BLM, which has been amended twice, and our limit is 77 acres within that red area. And within that red area, we also conduct concurrent reclamation so that when we are done with the road, we can reclaim it and use those acres somewhere else. GIS supports our extensive and robust geologic modeling. And that modeling, we're using very new software that lets us plan our drilling holes so that we can minimize our surface disturbance. The image on the right shows how from a single site we can drill numerous drill holes in a radial pattern, the wagon wheels, to intercept our deposit, as shown on the cross section on the left. Historically, we would have used a grid pattern, and we would have needed way more sites and way more disturbance to get to the same results. Having the air photos over 5 decades, starting from the 1970s, has been very useful for planning purposes and seeing where we have existing disturbance and where we can use existing disturbance and not create new disturbance. And the 2021 image on the lower right was provided by Docket, and it shows our completed reclamation. Well, how do I track all this disturbance and reclamation? I use ArcGIS. We use points and lines, and from there I can track a lot of different attributes of the roads, whether it's open or reclaimed or released from our bond. I can track the land status and the dates that we have reclaimed and built everything. The geologists use a 1/2 meter accuracy GPS and ArcGIS field apps to capture the road center lines and drill hole locations to go into the GIS. And we use that geode GPS, which was built by a company in Logan. That goes into a ArcGIS slope model. On the left, the areas of darker shades are steeper slopes, and we need to know the steepness of the slopes because a drill road creates a larger disturbance footprint on a steep slope than it does on a gentle slope, and it costs a lot more to reclaim roads on steep slopes. So all that goes into a GIS model, as shown in the lower right, and in Excel tables where I can summarize the data. That goes into the Nevada Surface Reclamation Cost Estimator model, or SURCE for short, which calculates all the acres we need for reseeding and reclamation. The Nevada SURCE model was developed by Nevada Bureau of Mining, the BLM, and various mining companies for this purpose. For Utah, we don't use this, but I still use the output to go into Docket's bonding formulas. In 2018, we flew a LiDAR survey over the area, which gave us very high resolution images to work with. Up in the upper right is a open active drill site, and in 3D, we can see every bit of disturbance, including the sump. And in the lower left, we have a reclaimed drill site. And as you can see, we recontour everything to pre-project contours. And honestly, you can't see that it's there. Unless you knew what you were looking at, you would not know it was there.
But what this gave us was we're using the SURCE model as a guide because it is the best practice for estimating your reclamation costs. What we found is that it was underestimating our actual disturbance, and so Gerald adjusted the inputs into the SURCE calculator to better estimate what was actually on the ground.
So we have a few images here of what our reclamation actually looks like. On the left is an active drill site, and the dimensions are usually 50 by 70 feet, although that would depend on site conditions, the local topography, and how many drill holes. The sump in the front is probably about 7 to 5 feet deep, and that water will infiltrate back into the ground within about a day or two. In the middle, we have a picture showing the actual reclamation process, where we regrade everything to its original steepness, and then harrowing and reseeding and putting a layer of organic material on the top, usually dead trees, dead branches, whatever we can find locally. And then on the right is the same site 8 months later, and you would hardly know it was there. When we have the right seed mix and a good water year, most people have no idea that there was ever a drill site there. All of this data it goes into reporting for DOGM's exploration reports that I do annually. And we can track all the dates so we know when they were seeded. Last year, we got 24 acres released of successful reclamation from our bond. So that way we can use that acreage somewhere else. Currently, we're about 54 acres of open disturbance and in progress reclamation. What's next? I'm experimenting with some different ways to visualize the data, which might be useful for future permitting. I'm also looking at a ArcGIS Online website for DOGM to review our data in real time. And why is this above and beyond? The amount of time and effort we put into compiling and validating the data from as many different sources adds a lot of value to the project. Using GIS and 3D modeling for innovative ways of solving these complex problems, like, well, how many acres are we disturbing? Not a lot of companies track that at the level that we do. And that is part of our plans, that we can make efficient use of the resources, we minimize the disturbance, and we can avoid environmental problems. Liberty Gold is committed to transparency in all of our operations and reporting, and we operate at the highest standards. And I'd like to thank the DOGM board for this nomination and this opportunity to present today. Please contact us if you have any questions or would like to know more about our project.
Or if there are any questions now we can answer, we'd be happy to.
Does the board have any questions for the presenters? Selma?
Just a quick question on the reseeding. How do you determine, and does BLM or any other state agency guide you on the types of seed mix and what is required to make sure that it's consistent with the area there?
Yeah, the BLM and the DOGM agree on the seed mix for that particular area, and the BLM would prefer that we don't plant any non-native species there.
Yeah, so as part of our plan of operations, a native seed mix was agreed upon, and we purchased the seed from Granite Seed in Lehigh, and so it's locally sourced seed. And we tried to put it out at a time of year where it's going to have the best chance of germinating, and a time of year when the turkeys don't eat it all, because they do like it when we reseed out there.
Mr. Church, did you have a question?
Yes, I have a question on your radial drilling from the, do you do all of that at one time from the pad before you reclaim it, your drill site? Or do you go into the same drill site and drill subsequent radial wells from that drill site?
That's
What's
a
the timing on that?
great question. And usually what we'll do is, based on our geologic model, we'll drill a series of 4 or 5 holes. The mineralization at Gold Strike forms kind of a blanket. And so it's very easy to target that blanket from, we try to get about 100-foot offsets on each of our drill holes. So we'll go in, target an area initially. Those assays go to an independent assay lab. When we get the assays back from our drilling, we likely have to go back and follow up on those results with the second and sometimes even third round of drilling. So the assays take about 5 weeks to get back from the lab. And so one drill pad might remain open for several months until we determine that area's been fully tested, and we kind of go ahead and reclaim it. Sometimes we do have to reopen our old reclamation and reclaim it, but we try to minimize that.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions? I want to thank you for the presentation. Utah likes to welcome responsible operators to the state, and I think employing new data collection techniques and sharing that data with DOGM is invaluable for ongoing operations, whether it's yours or somebody else's. We need to determine about the presentation of an award. And I don't know, do we need to discuss this offline, or are we willing to say their presentation satisfied the rules of the award? Are
I'm
we
very comfortable
good?
going ahead.
We would like to say we are glad to hear that you've done what you've done. We would like to award you our environmental award. I know Dogam has been very pleased working with you to this point and hope that this is very successful for you. Holly will be handling the award and presentation of the award. Holly, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you. Typically, we would give the award at the next board hearing. However, I don't know that there's anything on the agenda yet for May. So I think that date and time is kind of up in the air, but I will certainly make sure to let you know when that presentation will be and whether you want to come up to Salt Lake, or we can also make arrangements to deliver it, but we will make sure that you receive that award.
That's great. Thank you. And thank you to the board members. And I also want to thank Kim Coburn with Dogam. She's been a great resource for us, and working with her has really been a pleasure because she operates at the same level we do. And we really like that.
Good. I hope we all continue to work together and push this project forward. I wish you much success.
Yes, thank you. We hope it is Utah's next gold mine.
I hope so. That would be great. Thank you for your time.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate this.
Can we move on to Mr. Baza with program status updates?
Thank you, Ms. Garrison, and welcome members of the board to your meeting in Salt Lake City. I am John Baza. I'm the director of the Division of Oil, Gas, and Mining. We'll continue with our briefing session today. I'd like to give my personal thanks to Liberty Gold for making the trip and making the presentation today. We certainly are in an age of big data, and I think that the more data tools we have, such as what they're doing, the better off we're all going to be in getting our jobs done. So really appreciate that presentation. This morning we have on the briefing schedule as item 2, an oil and gas program status update. And to do that, Deputy Director Bart Kettle of our oil and gas program is going to give you that presentation, and we'll give just a second for Bart to get hooked up here. Bart has been with the division, I'm thinking 17 years, maybe a little longer than that. But he's been in his role as deputy director now for a little over 2 years, and he is doing an excellent job. I think the program has flourished under his leadership, and I know that staff members appreciate Bart for the commitment and attention that he's given to the program. So we'll turn the time over to Bart now and let him present on the oil and gas program.
Thank you, Director Baza. This will be a fairly brief presentation. I just wanted to hit on 3 items that we identified this past year as kind of bottlenecks for our program, and we went before the legislature asking for some help on those 3 items. The legislature listened to us. They allocated some funding to help us solve each one of these, and so I just wanted to give an update on them. It's only been a few months, so there's not a lot of change, but the first one, we asked for an additional Attorney General position. We did get that position. As probably all of you know, Haley Souza, who has done such a good job representing us over the past couple of years, is moving on to the next stage of her career. And while that does feel like a step back, I would prefer that we all just take the time to kind of focus on the things that Haley did for us and brought to us, and just show a little appreciation for how much she's helped us out, and also for the other attorney general staff that help us keep kind of functions like this board hearing going each month and help us in our day-to-day work. So we will be recruiting a couple of new attorneys here in the near future. We'll keep you apprised of that as it moves on. The second item is staffing. And so I'm just going to introduce one individual, Quarry Miller, who joined our program back in March. And Quarry comes to us from industry. He has 19 years of experience in industry prior to joining our organization. Most of that experience is in surveying and in the permitting and compliance realm with industry. And we're really excited to have Quarry come with us. He's going to be based in Vernal. He lives in Vernal. He'll be part of our permitting group, heavily involved in the processing for applications for permit to drill, kind of moving forward. And if I can, just a second before I move on, we've got an additional position out for an environmental scientist right now. That position will also be in Vernal, and so hopefully we get some good applicants for it. You'll probably see a few more positions being posted from the program as we move forward. It's a little inopportune because we're in this worker shortage era, and you don't always get to pick the conditions you face. You just deal with the outcome of it, but we're looking forward to what happens there. So on applications for permit to drill, I just wanted to kind of highlight one thing that I think probably intuitive the board is already aware of, since you see many of these matters come before you, and that's just two pie charts. So the one on the left being the wells in the state by mineral lease type, and the breakdown of those. And as you can see, the majority of those have a federal mineral lease type. And then if I could draw your attention to the chart on the right, that being the new permits we're receiving right now. And you can see a pretty dramatic shift. When we look at multiple mineral lease type wells, existing one, it's just a tiny red line on the left, almost looks like a printer error. But as we look at what we're seeing going forward with horizontal wells, that's one of our kind of major contributors to new APDs being submitted to us. And it feels like that's probably going to be a trend that continues. With now some over 50% of the wells being a multiple mineral lease type or a fee or state mineral type, it does change the workload a little bit for the program. These types of wells means that our technical group, when they do the evaluation, have a few more steps to do. And so it does increase their workload a little bit going forward. We haven't seen maybe as much of an increase of applications for permit to drill as we maybe thought there would, although this month they are up slightly. So we'll see what the future holds. We don't quite know for sure, but we're trying to set ourselves up to be successful should we see a big influx of APDs. So one of the questions just to cover at a high level that we're asked all the time is production. We've got the numbers in for the last year. They surprised us a little bit. As you can see from the graph, the natural gas production in the state of Utah has been on a really, really consistent decline, really since 2012 to present. And that kind of stabilized this past year. We didn't really see that coming, and it didn't fully manifest itself until the end of the year. Uena County remains our major gas producing county in the state, but most of the kind of the flattening of the curve is probably occurring from Duchesne County and its associated gas with horizontal wells. And just to kind of dive into that just a little more detail, there is a graph of recent gas production. You can see kind of some of the slumps associated with COVID, and then we're starting to flatten out, and even a little bit of an increase in gas production in the recent months. Moving on to oil production, it's been a roller coaster ride, probably mostly associated with price. But last year's oil production was up considerably from the previous year. Duchesne County is still the major oil producing county in the state. One thing that's probably worth just being mindful for the future is with a lot of the activity occurring in Duchesne County and some of the associated gas increasing as far as production is concerned in the county, the infrastructure to transport that gas may not be adequate. And so that's probably one of the hurdles that we'll likely face as a regulatory body moving forward, assuming that exploration and gas production continues to increase there. where most of the infrastructure that was built to accommodate gas was oftentimes more in Uena County. And kind of the same thing, a little more detailed look at oil production by month. It was hit pretty dramatically by COVID, fell off quite a bit, and then stabilized at a reasonable rate in the last few months. Obviously, price driven, it's increased quite a bit. And so then I wanted to talk about the other thing, and that being our data enhancements or some of the technological advancements that we've done. And I wanted to highlight one thing that I think intuitively we all kind of know, but that is it's not necessarily what you know sometimes, but who you know, and highlight one of the partnerships we have with the Groundwater Protection Council, who help us with a lot of our data enhancement projects. Just a couple of things about that relationship. On many of these data enhancement projects, the Groundwater Protection Council actually matches us up to 50% on the funding for them. So that's a huge bonus for us. They work to kind of leverage federal funds to help state regulatory programs put data enhancements together. Those are then available for other states to use. So work that's done here in Utah or in other states, our regulatory peers could benefit from. And they've helped us out quite a bit, being kind of innovative in some of the things that we've done. I think in the past, we've presented to the board about our inspection prioritization program some 2 years back. That's a project that they helped us with. We've also done some work with making our inspections kind of an automated process. Right now, we're working on some projects that'll help us with idle and orphan well management. Once again, trying to kind of be innovative and take a step forward. I think it's probably, as the board knows, this is a program that's been in place for some 3 decades with the division. We've done a really good job with it over time, but we're looking at ways to kind of build on some of the progress or some of the strengths we've had and hope that we can continue to get good results off of, as Director Baza said, the big data management end of things. And so with that, that's all I had today. I'll gladly take any questions if there are any.
Board members, do you have any questions? Mr. Church?
Yes, Mr. Kettle. Would you remind me what kind of entity the Groundwater Protection Council is? Is it a local, a national group, and is it funded by the government or industry?
The Groundwater Protection Council is a national group. It's a not-for-profit organization, but they do get a lot of their funding from the Department of Interior, and then kind of help allocate that funding to projects at the state levels.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask another question too about GWPC. I noticed that they're meeting here in Salt Lake City next month, I believe.
In June.
In June, okay.
Yes.
They seem to be coming back to Salt Lake frequently. Are we one of their favorite places to work? And what will we be doing at that participation level?
I can talk about that in just a minute in light of our coming agendas. So
Okay.
if you hold that question, we'll talk about that a little bit more.
I'd like to recognize Haley Sosa and thank her for her service these past few years with the division. It's been much appreciated, and lots of success in your new assignment. So thank you so much. We're moving on to other.
Yes. And not to belabor Bart's presentation, but he's a bit modest. When we talk about Groundwater Protection Council and the help they've given us, I think we have this reputation now in Utah of being innovators in that space. The inspection prioritization module was basically an idea that we put together in Utah with the programming help from GWPC, but the concept is now being applied to other types of prioritization. Bart talked about the, plugging prioritization. We're looking at bonding prioritization, some other things like that. But other states have seen what we're doing and are following our lead. And I think we've developed quite the impressive set of credentials in Utah that say we're innovators and we're really using the data system to its utmost potential. So thanks to Bart and the oil and gas program staff for making those things happen. Going back to the agenda, we don't really have other items, but let me talk about the next month's agenda and calendar. I found out yesterday that the items that were scheduled for the May board meeting have now been postponed. So there are no formal items on the agenda for May. And with that, I reached out to the Petroleum Association because we've been trying to schedule and plan for a field trip out to the Uinta Basin that they wanted to host. And I indicated that that week of that board meeting, which is now has no formal matters, might be available for such a field tour. So I know it's short notice and we'll be doing a little bit of scrambling to try to get that set up. But I think that if it works out for everybody, I'd like to put the board on notice that we may be taking a field trip the week of the May board meeting, which would be, I think, the week of May 23rd,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
25th is Wednesday.
Yes. So if you would just keep that in mind, we'll put together a more realistic agenda as to where we're going, what we want to see. I wouldn't expect that we'd be spending more than one night out in the basin, but we'll make arrangements for hotel rooms and everything that goes along with that. So keep that in mind, that will take the place of our May board meeting. But then to answer Mr. Walker's question about Groundwater Protection Council, they are meeting in Salt Lake City, and this is actually a replacement for the meeting they were supposed to have last year in Salt Lake City, and they didn't. They had turned that into an electronic meeting. So they kept the hotel commitment and decided they were going to expand their traditional annual forum to include another meeting they have scheduled during the year called Underground Injection Control. So it's going to be a little more expansive agenda. They're still excited about coming to Salt Lake. The dates of that start on June 21st. And they'll be here for at least 3 days. We will certainly sign up board members and register you to attend that if you're interested. It'll be at the Sheraton in downtown Salt Lake. And there are some workshops and field trips that are part of that agenda. So I will get the information to you, and you can let me or my administrative assistant, Jeanette Lucero, know, and we'll make sure to get you set up for that conference. But that happens to be the same week that the June board meeting is. So we'll have to dance around that a little bit, knowing that we'll probably have several board matters to attend to since we're not having a May hearing. But because the conference is 3 days, there'll be parts of that you can pick and choose from to be able to attend. I think that kind of covers it. The Groundwater Protection Council is a national organization. It is an organization of membership of state government representatives, both the oil and gas types like me, or the water quality, environmental quality types who deal with water in the space of groundwater. They have been in existence probably since the mid 1980s. I happen to be on the board of that. So I think that's one of the reasons they're coming to Utah is they like us. They appreciate what we've been doing with the data system that they created, and they want to kind of return the favor by having a major conference in Salt Lake City. So it's good for us, it's good for them, and we're looking forward to being a host state for them. So,
Mr. Bott, do they still have their frac focus system? That registry, wasn't that groundwater protection?
yes, frac focus, you're right. They They actually manage that. They do the data enhancements for that as that product continues to be improved and evolve over time. But yes, Frac Focus is their baby.
Are states and companies participating pretty well? or-
Absolutely. I think most of the states who are members of Groundwater Protection Council are using that as a data system for the chemical disclosure on hydraulic fracturing. And that's what it was designed to do.
Anything else pending?
I think that's about it for us. Just keep in mind that we'll probably have a field tour rather than a hearing in May. The Groundwater Protection Council is on the same day as the June hearing. And then we'll go forward with presentation of the award to Liberty Gold. And it could be the June hearing if that works out for everyone. And we'll work with Holly and make sure that that's something that can happen. Seemed like there was something oh, yes, there was a new state holiday created by the legislature this year called Juneteenth. And it is scheduled for the Monday of June 20th. It's supposed to be a June 19th holiday, but since it occurs on a Sunday, it's going to be Monday the 20th this year. So that's brand new. That's one reason that it's fortuitous that the May date opened up for a field tour, because it would have been kind of tough to do a field trip and a board hearing that same week. But we'll have a similar problem in July because Pioneer Day is on the 23rd of July this year, and the board hearing is scheduled for the 25th. So we'll have to work around that as well.
Are the dates for the board meeting always, I mean, is that in volatile that it's the fourth Wednesday of the month?
It's not something we can't violate. And if we had looked down the road at this a little bit better, maybe we could have adjusted that date.
Mhm.
But the trouble with shifting it to a different week is it really shortens up the time for
Sure,
the legal matters that have to be posted
right.
for the subsequent board meeting. So, we like to keep with that schedule if we can. And the fact that there's a holiday preceding the board meeting isn't generally that troublesome, but because we were looking at trying to coordinate board tours at the same time, it's hard to do both of those things in the same week when you've got a holiday.
Holly, I assume you will work with our award winners for an appropriate time that they could receive their award. Yes. Great.
And that's all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Baza.
Thank you.
We had a training session for board members planned over lunch today, but we are missing 3 board members at this meeting. And so we are going to postpone that again until sounds like maybe June or July even to get that done. So great. We're a little bit ahead of time. Oh, I was just reminded, do we have anyone in the audience for public comment or online? Hearing nothing from anyone, I guess we will hold up. Our regular meeting commences at 10 o'clock, so I guess we will take a break here for about 15 minutes, return at 10 o'clock to begin the board meeting. Thank you.